All right, we're live. RTD Live Talk, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Excited to be back for another live stream. And so I feel like it's been a minute. I think the last live stream of this nature was, last week, if I'm not mistaken. So with that being the case, welcome to this live stream. My name is Mike, the host of Detroit's #1 late night YouTube talk show. And tonight I want to talk about the Phase 1 deal, what that means, where we're heading, and all of the other stuff we can kind of wrap around that. And so got a couple thoughts I want to share with you as to where the first thing that came to mind for me tonight about how to position my viewpoint is that this trade deal Phase 1, from what I'm gathering, of course, no one's read anything. It looks like a 50-cent solution for a $100 problem. And so I'm going to, explain more of what I mean by that. So before I dive any further, let me check and make sure you guys can hear me. So thumbs up in the chat right here. Man, my hands are ashy. Thumbs up in the chat right here if you guys can hear me. Had some difficulties with the mic earlier, so I want to make sure everything is good. And then let me check in with the chat and make sure everything is good. We got Tony. We got William, Pat. Appreciate the advice, Pat. Spirit. It says, thank God I was bored. Well, Spirit, is always good to know that when you're bored, you come to RTD Live Talk. Appreciate you. We got James. We got Excalibur. We got Death by Debt. We got, what else we got here? We got James. And so it looks like everything is flowing smoothly. Thumbs up, loud and clear. Sounds good. So once again, when it comes to the microphone, nothing's done differently. It's just sometimes it wants to work and sometimes it doesn't. So when we keep it working, keep it moving. We got Ty, we got BC Matrix, party time. Yeah, so just before I dive any further, before I pull up a couple articles, for those that have had a chance to check back today or actually had a chance to watch the signing ceremony at the White House, another thing that has me wondering exactly if this is such a landmark historical deal, and if the U.S. is really getting a fair deal or a good deal or whatever they're touting this to be, how come President Xi wasn't present? I think, to me, that signals to me that perhaps, it's not that great of a deal overall, because I would have expected the head man of China to be in my house shaking my hand when he was signing that paper, but having the premier vice in the house, I guess I was saying a second-hand man. Okay, sure, but just something to speculate on there. Worldwide Emergency. What's up, Mike? Face says, hi, Spirit says, I'm out of, getting bored. I mean, real boring. Okay, Spirit, I'm sure you'll figure it out. We got the unenforceable trade deal, pure fraud. It is obviously to anyone listening, no one here with a grain of economic intelligence. Dwayne Campbell, please enlighten me, please. Curious to find out your thoughts on what's lacking from our perspective here, and just more so being somewhat of a skeptical of any type of deal that's being rolled out where no one's had a chance to roll through it or read it. And even the President Trump in his press conference mentioned that a lot of the Democratic Party hasn't seen it, or probably Republicans for that matter. But something was signed, and assuming we'll get a copy of it, but will the copy that we receive be the actual copy they signed? All things you got to kind of wonder, So, and we'll see. Tell us, Dwayne. Said there's no way China gave an inch in any trade deal. It would make them look weak in front of their population, which could cause civil unrest. Pat, great point there. And so, based upon the very vague and insignificant overall in a grander scheme of things, just some of the dollar amounts that were given to us is what has me wondering exactly, how beneficial towards the trade deficit will the numbers that were given to us really, what type of difference will they make? What type of impact? Because, apparently in Phase 1, there's 4 sectors, of which I have an article here mentioning energy, agriculture, and I think a little bit of technology or whatnot. But the 4th one I wasn't able to actually find. So someone let me know if you happen to know. But it's one of the things where China buying more from us, will that really help make America great again? Will that trade deal, Phase 1, really be that much of a difference maker? Or will we need to see Phase 1 and Phase 2 and all the different steps that will be given to us over the next couple of years, weeks, or whatever, or more likely months or years before we can look back and say, okay, we got a fair shake and it really makes a difference towards making America great again. Because at this current point, as I started off by saying, we have what appears to be, to me, and I'm going to tell you why I believe this, we have a 50-cent style solution for a $100 problem. And I'm talking about in the grander scheme of things, long-term, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year. And I'm going to dive into that further. But what we see here says, it says, reality is usually scoffed at. Illusion is usually king. The trade deal sounded like a threat to our national security. Just got in. Kenneth, just getting started, my friend. We got Trump is famous for his companies going bankrupt. The USA is a company, and well, you know the rest. Worldwide emergency. Great assessment there. I just came in. We made a deal with China. Today, some stuff was signed, and I have something that I want to share with you guys that I extracted out of his speech, which of course, you know how I do it here. I always spin off a different narrative and give you something on top of it just to keep you wondering, keep you guessing. And I think how I'm going to spin this one, you guys are going to enjoy this one because it's a lot of truth in it. It says, hey, Mike, I want to thank you in advance for paying off my student loans. Vote Pocahontas. Paying off my student loans. Well, if I did directly or indirectly, you're welcome. What else we got here? It says Nixon screwed us in 71. He went to China to offer the same carp. It says if you are putting down these trade agreements, the Chinese economy was collapsing and they had no choice. Trump, master negotiator. Yes, it will create hundreds of thousands of jobs. Explain your case. Okay, Dwayne, great point there. So I like the fact that you appear to be very confident in the deal that was signed today. So I appreciate that. So thanks for sharing that perspective. And so what I'm referring to here is not necessarily being critical of the president, because what he ran upon was making America great again. And so it's just the particular steps and the methods that will result in making America great, assuming we're talking about just the sheer deficit we've been running for over 20 years now, where apart from the last 2 or 3 years, for the most part, under his watch, under his administration, there's been a decreasing of the deficit overall, but due to this trade war, as well as all the other NAFTA and everything else he's putting in play. And so that does appear to be a step in the right direction to cut back our dependency on foreigners taking advantage of us, as they say, by them sending us more than we are able to send them. Therefore, that deficit being ran up to over $1 trillion, or actually, I got some numbers here. When it comes to the entire world, it's $800 billion. When it comes to China, it's around $300 billion. But regardless, we always bring in more than we send out. Why? Because our manufacturing base was hollowed out decades ago. So well before I was even involved in all this, to where I'm not sure exactly what we can send out apart from the 3 or 4 sectors that we're sending out now. But to comment more on your statement there, the Chinese economy was collapsing. All economies are collapsing. So it's not like this trade deal is going to really boost and ramp up things and get the economy back flowing again, where it looks like, due to just the very nature of debt and the fact that more corporations have taken advantage of cheap borrowing costs over this past decade, to where if economies start booming again, that means they're going to have to raise interest rates more than likely. And all that debt, all the trillions upon trillions that companies and everybody and their mother has taken out will be a little bit more costlier to pay back as interest rates rise. Therefore, it's going to cause problems that way as well. So I'm not sure exactly the jobs, the hundreds of thousands of jobs that will be created when a lot of the companies already are having issues with their productivity. Nevertheless, I don't see China outright, like by the end of this year, purchasing $50 billion, when Steve Mnuchin went on the air yesterday and said that the $50 billion, I think, for the agriculture, or whatever the number is, I'm going to pull up in a minute, he said something about years. So he said cutting into the deficit in the next couple of years. So that sounds like 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So jobs right away, I'm not sure. I think this phase 1 deal will not be, the results of that will not be impacting our economy this year. And right now, according to all the indicators, we're already technically in a recession. So I'm not quite sure how this trade deal would really get things rolling again when things are already slowing down. And central banks on top of the quantitative easing that's began again. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to make things better, but I'm not a PhD economist, so I'll back off that one, let you do on that one. So I appreciate the comment and the thoughts there. It says, I live in Milwaukee. Trump's new mantra for 2020 at last night's rally is keep America great. And so here's the big thing. I am not, and so I've been getting a lot of interesting feedback and comments about my position and where I stand. Put me in the middle. Like, that's one thing. Like, I don't go out here and bash this administration. I don't go out here and cheer for this administration. As a commentator, I'm in the middle. I'm sharing with you my opinions based upon the information I see, and I wrap it up in the bigger picture of no matter what. The name of the show is called Rethinking the Dollar, and that's for a reason, because between now and the time all the smoke clears, your national currency will still be your greatest financial liability. So I'm not sure exactly if Trump makes America great again, if he keeps it great. This guy wants negative interest rates. And to prove that, I want to play this clip real quick so you can get a chance to see and hear exactly what he wants. And then what really makes me wonder exactly how and why people are so, excited or pro and not just neutral. Like, I don't take sides with any political affiliation because both of them are a part of the same agenda. The only thing they can do is continue to create $100 problems with these 50-cent solutions. And I'm about to dive further, but let me go ahead and give you a little bit of this clip here and listen to the president talk about negative interest rates and how the United States borrowing cost is too high at 1.725 or 1.75 of a percentage point, and Germany is at negative. They're getting paid, and we should be getting paid too. And so he's going to say some things here that I want you guys to listen to this real quick.
And I would have been very happy with you. But Kevin, thank you for being here. You understand that very well, right? Bothers me when Germany and other countries are getting paid to borrow money. This is one. I don't know where that all leads. But we have to pay. We're the number one in the world by far, and we have to pay for our money. Our interest rates are set high by the Fed. Our dollar's very high, and relatively speaking. But when other countries get literally, they have negative rates, meaning they're under, they get paid. I love this. This concept is incredible. Again, you don't know where the hell it leads, but you borrow money, and when you have to pay it back, they pay you. This is one that I like very much. I'm going to talk to you about that, Lou Dubs. So we're set at 2. Tell me, why are we paying and other countries are getting money when they get paid back? I really want to know who are the people that buy this stuff? Who puts money into something when they say this is a guaranteed loss? But that's a whole different group of people than I know. Glenn Youngkin of Carlisle. And I would have been...
So I wanted to play that just because that was very interesting, because there's a lot of things you can take away from there as to how the president thinks and where all this is heading, because his statements there of who would buy something knowing they're going to get paid back less, he's like, I don't understand that. And then twice he said, where all this leads, nobody knows. Where all this goes, nobody knows. And, me, I'm not a PhD economist. I take pride in that because it doesn't take much to see where this is heading. But I'm curious to find out where you think all this is heading. But he has a president who talks about borrowing costs, saying that our interest rates are too high, and we have Germany that's negative. And I'm thinking like, well, what about the savers? What about the users of the reserve currency? What about those that work for our currency? What about those that actually save dollars, work for dollars at the same time that interest rates are extremely low to where it hurts those that save? But yet, of course, you would never, that'll never be brought up, that'll never be mentioned or anything like that. But I'm thinking like, so how I was going to reword that was when it comes to borrowing costs, how we can create money and we have to pay, we shouldn't have to pay to borrow. And I'm thinking like, but you're the reserve currency of the world. Like, the world depends upon something that's quote unquote stable. And the Federal Reserve note happens to be the worst of the best out of all of them. So the world still runs to them and depends upon them. But he's literally trying to make it to where the world turns their back on the dollar even faster, even though it'll take some time. But, it's clearly something that's in the making now. But I was going to reword that by saying, who would want to lend money knowing who would want to buy debt knowing that you're going to get paid back less? And then my spinoff of that was, who would actually want to save paper? Who would actually want to save lots of paper notes in an account when inflation is going to eat away at it? Like that. And to me, that might sound, I try to figure out something that's similar to that on a smaller front. But who would really want to hold things that the central banks right now are creating by the billions by the day in a lending window that, once again, lending overnight, lending 2 days, 3 days, that doesn't necessarily need to be paid back, because who knows if they do or they don't. So those are all things that, I thought was very interesting. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about that, because when I heard that, when I watched the full speech, I couldn't help myself but wonder, like, man, he really wants to go negative, therefore destroying savers. And that's automatically transferring wealth from the hands of those that have parked cash in institutions into the hands of those that will benefit most, which happen to be the debtor. So it will eventually pay to go into debt. That's basically what he's saying. Yeah, I'm going to leave it alone. As always, the phone lines are open. Feel free to give me a call. Would love to hear your voice. Anybody out there agree with me? Feel free to call me. If you don't agree, feel free to call as well. I'm curious to find out. Once again, it's just me sharing my opinion there. Therefore, I'm not right or wrong. I'm just sharing a thought. And that's what I enjoy about this. Like, I see a lot of people take things personally. A lot of people take this political charade personal, as if like Trump is your guy or Obama was your guy. They're paid politicians, they're paid to tell you what they think's best for you to hear, to keep calm so that they can continue to do what they do best, which is to keep this thing going. And while along the way, with the debt continue to go up, giving us 50-cent problems, 50-cent solutions for $100 problems. So I want to get right into that. It says, usury is of the world, enjoy the usury. Right? That's just a part of this system. Mike, stop rambling and read my genius comments. Highlight at Rethinking the Dollar so it stands out. It says, Dwayne says, please do not bash me for my thoughts, not the speaker, but others. I have my opinion just like you. Again, the interest we are paying the Fed is stupid. Dwayne, definitely, my friend. It's all love here, all respect here. I appreciate everybody's opinion. It said, Trump was the one who came up in prayer for the one God wanted for this time. How about other people who pray? Who did God show you? Yeah, in regards to the leadership, I wasn't given any direct instructions from the Lord himself in regards to who's best, but I'm instructed to pray for everybody in the leadership position. So I'm definitely about that. It's nothing personal. I have nothing personal against Trump or anybody or no president. They're a man just like me. They just happen to be in a higher position, and their position happens to impact me and my family. So it's one of the things where that's one of the things about the First Amendment. I have the right to express my opinion. And also, we're going to get into the Second Amendment in Virginia. I've just been touching on that a little bit, and I think that's something worthy of us commenting on as well. And so, death by debt, feel free to give me a call. I would love to have you share your thoughts via phone line. And I want to try to get to everybody's thoughts here if I can. It says the Fed is moving the repo effort to the hedge fund market. That's why gold is going up. And same time as the equity markets, the pensions are going the way of Greece, Italy, etc. Criminal at best. Fat Slim, very good point. I posted the article about hedge funds. There's 3 big hedge funds by... excuse me. There's 3 big hedge funds that are having some big issues. So there's going to be some real problems coming soon or underway right now. Like always, the problems are already at the foundation. The foundation is cracking, and the Fed is trying to, patch it up or glue it up, whatever they're going to try to do. It says Trump is just one of the Masonic chaos. You have to have 2 sides for the game to continue. Trump's just one side of the chaos. Could be the case. Could be the case 100%. Pat, Trump is just a puppet. We have never had a president that wasn't. Please research the Act of 1871. And so, yeah, that's going deep there. So what I wanted to do is get into a little bit some articles that I pulled up. It says, rethinking that silver is an industrial metal. So if the economy slows down, will silver have less industrial use? Will the value increase or decrease? Thanks, Mike. Worldwide emergency. Okay, so the great question there, and once again, it's just my opinion. And so the industrial nature of silver, even if manufacturers slow down operations, plants close, they're not producing as much goods and services, or goods rather, that require silver, I would imagine silver would still maintain a pretty consistent value because it would then be solely viewed upon as a monetary metal. And in this current environment we're in now, with all of the digital expansion of the reserve balance sheets and everybody quantitative easing and dropping rates, I would imagine that silver, being a constant metal of long-term value, will always be worth something. Now, what they do in the futures markets, what they do with all the paper and all stuff like that is a whole nother story. But the person who holds silver in their possession, such as this beauty right here, this 5-ouncer, such as holding 5 ounces in your hands, puts you in a position where you're always going to be sitting on some weight. And you won't have to worry so much about the paper like blowing in the wind, and as they create more of that stuff. So I think it will still hold value just because it has properties that are, I don't want to say eternal, but forever in a sense. So I think there'll still be great use for silver as money, even around any type of market slowdown. So do you think we should deregulate the Federal Reserve and have no reserve currency? Robbie Blue. I'm not quite sure exactly how to wind down this current monetary paradigm, because one thing I do know, you can't turn back over our monetary and financial matters solely to the Treasury, because my personal opinion is that the Treasury was hijacked by the too big to fail banks decades ago. So you have Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, everybody in the Treasury works for Goldman Sachs in a sense. So you can't turn it back over to them. And the House and Congress, they know nothing about financial matters. They know nothing about monetary policy. So we don't really have anybody that's able to really handle our affairs in a way that would be right in a sense. So I'm not quite sure what to do. So at this current point, I remember having Bill Steele on years ago, and he was, gave out some solutions as to how we can go back. And, you take the Federal Reserve balance sheet under the United States Treasury. You issue, I think he said something about issue a $1 trillion coin or something like that. And you can use that as a standard, or it was something where I'm like, I didn't understand it. But there's all types of economists and PhD people with better scenarios than myself. But I personally see no solution to something that's inherently broken. Just the very nature of our banking system is very flawed, because it's designed to profit those that run it at the expense of those that get up and work every day. So that's just me there. It says crypto might become a reserve currency in name at the World Bank for something, but will never be the world currency. I definitely think, that technology is going to be included as a way of, it's going to be a backdoor out of this decaying system. So basically, what I'm believing this next year and beyond, imagine the global economy as a house, as a nice big mansion that's been running smoothly for quite some time now. Well, things are starting to crumble. The foundation's crumbling. The house structure is not as strong. We have different sections of the house that's not in agreement because the foundations are cracking. So we're going to have the people inside start to turn on each other pretty soon, and eventually, the thing is going to come down. If the foundation is weak, then no matter what's happening up top, it's going to come down. When it comes down, how long it takes to come down, we're going to find out, because I believe it's cracking now. And then what's going to be left over of the rubble to then be able to clear that slate and build something on top of it will be a part of the next couple of decades that we're going to get a chance to witness firsthand. But one thing I do know, and I'm very confident in, and let me know if you disagree or agree, that the standard of living in this country now, if you're in the U.S., the standard of living now is solely based upon credit and the ability to finance every single thing in our lives. And the moment that credit is not as readily available as it is now, will automatically usher in a new or a lower standard of living for everybody in this country. And so as I always say before, imagine having a downgraded lifestyle that is more that's similar to a Central American country or not necessarily African nation. That's third world completely. But imagine not having all the luxuries and the toys and the choices you have now due to the fact that your currency is no longer the global measuring stick of value around the world, that the central banks and the governments can continue to run deficits without any concern on paying it back. Because think about this. If the government didn't have easy access to the Federal Reserve as a crutch to run these deficits, to run $100 trillion or more type problems, then we wouldn't have the opportunity to be as wealthy of a nation as we are, because once again, who would fund that? We would have been going through hyperinflation. I'm not even sure if we would have been had a currency shift. Think about this. Every country around us, for the most part, has already been through 2 or maybe 3 different hyperinflationary environments. And we're still within the same one of the 1913 dollar, where it's worth now 3 cents out of its original $100 or dollar purchasing power. In that time frame of over 80, 100 years now, 107 years now, every nation around us has gone through 2 or 3 different variations of currencies through redenomination. They've added some zeros because of inflation and chopped off some. Added some zeros because of inflation, chopped off some. And here we are still using the same 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, and $100 bill for the last 100 years, and haven't had any problems with that apart from just not purchasing much. So imagine if the privilege of reserve currency was removed, we would have had a different currency by now. That's just my personal opinion. But once again, as always, let me know what you think in the comment section. Let's get into some of these articles here. And so I thought I would just thumb through some articles, share my 2 cents as to what's going on. And once again, I'm still looking for some in-depth understanding of what's actually in that deal. So I probably, whenever something is released, I'm definitely going to extract it from hopefully the whitehouse.gov. And I'm actually going to go from top to bottom to better understand and look for buzzwords, because I always look for buzzwords. And so here's an article here that gave a little bit of something. It said, here's what's inside the U.S.-China trade deal. And so I wanted to just thumb through it. I actually didn't have a chance to look at it, but we can do it together real quick. And so it says here, that's one of the U.S.-China trade deal with President Trump and China's Vice Premier Li Yu signed on Wednesday, provides an escape clause for either country to withdraw if a dispute cannot be resolved through high-level talks. So here's another thing here, just that statement alone. You can back out basically if there is no resolution to a problem. So it's good to say, let me know if I'm wrong, that between now and the time, probably between now and the time that President Trump either is reelected or the next president or whatever, there's going to be some disputes on property, on trade rights, property rights, some type of deal. There's going to be some type of dispute. Now, what's the likelihood of a country that's our Eastern counterparts that already has a 10, 20, 30-year plan, and I'm assuming that 10 to 30-year plan that China has formulated for their role in this next world order, that trade deal was not in that 10, 20, 30-year plan. So it's good to say they're not going to alter their plans to appease a president that wants to make a deal and brags about always winning a deal to accommodate or to give into President Trump. So what I'm saying is basically, I'm thinking that since there's a backout clause, escape clause, it's probably good to say that we may not even get to a phase 2, because depending on how this phase 1 worked, I don't really see this being something that's going to be sustainable. And if Trump doesn't win this next election, whoever the president that comes in, you better believe, just to undo everything Trump did, they're going to tear up the trade deal anyway. And so imagine how that's going to impact jobs. And so here's what I really want to touch on. It says the United States will maintain 25% duties on roughly $250 billion worth of Chinese goods used mainly by manufacturers to make finished products. Scroll down some more. China will also keep retaliatory tariffs on 5% or 25%. So amongst all this negotiating, there's still tariffs on goods, but we all know that the tariffs are basically an additional tax on the consumers of those finished products here. So anything we purchase from China is just, a couple cents more expensive. So like President Trump was bragging, China's paying us, $100 billion a month in tariffs. Oh, really? I don't think so. And so here's what's really caught my attention. China has to buy a lot more from the U.S. So this is what this is all about, making it more fair. China paying their fair share. It says over the 2020-21 2-year period, China will buy at least $200 billion more in U.S. products and services than it did in 2017. The United States exported slightly more than 185, and it gives some more figures. Under the deal, China is expected to buy a minimum of $77 billion of manufactured goods, $379 billion more of services, $32 billion more of agriculture, and $54 billion of energy. So we got energy, agriculture, service sector, and manufacturing goods. So those 4 industries there. And so I started this off today by saying, here we are, phase 1, and the excitement around this. And this is, as it says here, within the next 2 years, this is supposed to come to fruition. And then my biggest question to you guys is then what? So between now and the time China buys all these goods, is the American economy supposed to be really booming? And then what are the measuring standards? What are the indicators that really would show that we are booming? And so once again, 77 billion, 37 billion, 32 billion, 52 billion. That somebody do the math real quick. Let me know what that equates to. But off the top of my head, I'm seeing 130. I'm seeing about 100 and what is I think it's up here. 200. So 185 billion. No, where we at? So just say 200 billion. So this equates to $200 billion in the next year or two. In the time where our deficit. This is just with China, and I'm about to go pull up some numbers here. So this is just a good indicator of this is Uncle Sam's financial report card. And so if you look at this, which you probably can't see, just to give an idea of what our trade deficit is in general, I actually looked this up. So right here at the bottom, the U.S. trade deficit. That means just general, what comes in minus what goes out, the deficit. And so to give an idea, what it said is $870 billion right now today, total. And then with China alone, it's 358. And so give or take, okay, so we'll cut into that, a little bit over half. But yet we're still going to be running a deficit. So my point is, the Make America Great is we'll never enter into a surplus again as an economy. Like our monetary system is too far gone to allow us to ever be a surplus nation or a nation that is able to lend and not be dependent upon borrowing. It's too late. And let me show you why. So I start off by saying, for those that are just getting here, I start off by saying, to me, just glancing at the surface of this phase 1 deal, and me not being a PhD economist, so that's why I can say this, and this is just my opinion. I don't have to be certified to give you this opinion. Is that, okay, so $200 billion worth of goods in the next 2 years. Okay, we still going to run a deficit of, as it says right here. So at the very bottom to the bottom left, U.S. trade deficit currently 358 billion. So what? China buys 200. Okay, we're still negative 158 billion. And that's right now. And so to the world, we're 870 billion. So we're still 600 billion in the hole of trade. So we're always going to be dependent upon the productivity of other nations. And the best thing that we can do, as a nation at this current point, because of where we're at, is rack up debt. So there's 23 trillion and counting between now and the time, if President Trump is elected again, by the time Trump is done, if there is no official market correction or announced recession, our national debt is going to be 27 trillion, give or take. Because, remember the debt ceiling, every year they add 1.5 trillion, not to include all the other stuff we don't know about. So when I said this trade phase 1 deal is a 50-cent solution to $100 problem, factor in this. Our national debt is $23 trillion, which will never, ever be paid back. I'm sure you can agree. Where would it come from? It's not $23 trillion of just extra funds laying around. And then you factor in the unfunded liability. So at the very bottom of this, it's $127 trillion total. And so that's that $100 I was saying. So we got a $2 solution with a $100 trillion problem, or $100 problem. It will not begin to really make any long-term and long-lasting effects to the development and sustainability of this debt-based model, is what I'm getting at. So to cut this short, long story short, we got corporate household debt right now. So the U.S. total debt, including household, businesses, state, local governments, financial institutions, and the federal government, is $75 trillion. And we're talking about $200 billion with China. That's going to get our economy rolling again. Our economy can never boom when monetary policy has already ruined any chance of a recovery, because they can never get the Fed funds interest rate back to any type of normalcy of 5%, where you as a saver will be able to park funds in the bank and actually get something in the form of 1-2% interest on your savings. So you're going to lose out anyway. And then you factor in looking at our current interest payments. So our interest payments alone it says U.S. total. So let me get the government interest payments. So our deficit is our U.S. deficit is $1 trillion. What's the interest on that? Let me see. So the interest on our national debt that we pay, we're borrowing every year with this budget ceiling increase just to pay a portion of the interest at $377 billion. So our interest on our debt even outpaces our deficit to China. So not only do we owe $377 trillion or billion on the debt that we're paying on, but also we got a deficit of $300 billion as well. So just to sum this up, I'm gonna change the subject. You see all this red on the screen? All this red is a reflection of the true nature of what's going on outside of a deal. There can be no deal in a debt-based system when a debtor nation is dependent upon creditor nations. So I'm ranting too much, but forgive me. But I just like to look at the numbers, and I would assume, as I mentioned, it doesn't take a PhD to see that when you got more red than green, eventually there's going to be a problem. I could be wrong, and they can string this along, but at some point, this has to give. It has to break. And when it breaks, you're going to hear about it. Or more than likely, you're going to feel it. That's just my 2 cents there. Curious to find out what you think in the chat. So, yeah, I'm just having fun. I'm not having fun, but, just enjoying sharing my thoughts on this. Spirit King said, I'm losing my will to live. Spirit, don't do that. It's just numbers. It's just math. It's just money. It's not the end of the world. It's just digital and paper transactions that we need in the short term to provide for ourselves. It's not the real deal. It's just not the end of the world, my friend. Everything comes to an end. What else we got here? Utah Goldbacks. Yeah, Goldbacks are not bad. I got some. I like them. I mean, me personally, the Goldbacks, yeah, it's one of the things. The Goldbacks it's a community-based note. It's infused with gold, small increments, maybe like $1. They got $5, they got $10, they got $20, and it's in Utah, and it's meant to be used amongst local shops. So it's one of the things where I don't really see it spreading to be used amongst the population in general, but that's just my opinion. And then also, one of my things is, I like these notes here with the sliver of gold right there. And so those also will be effective in a community as well. It says, everyone here know there is no fix for this financial system. It might be patched up for a time, but there is no fix. This is their plan. They all know this. Socialism is here. Yeah. So, okay. So knowing that there's no fix, that's a good point. I'm going the gold team. Got to get my weight up. Knowing that there's, check the phone. Tony. All right. The phone lines should be available. Everything looks like a go on my side. Give it a try again. Hopefully it does ring. I'm going to put the ringer on, so hopefully don't miss a call. And so everything looks good on my end. So feel free to give me a call, Tony, if you got a question or thought or whatever you want to share. Always love to hear you, my friend. It says, God will never give you more than you can handle, ladies and gents. Never give up. Christ says in the Bible to walk with me, not by sight. To walk by faith, not by sight. 100%, Dwayne. I do dig that. And watch this. So this is just, so everything I'm talking about tonight is just money problem. It's just finance. That's I've been touching on financial matters such as this. This is the global economy, the lifeline of our monetary system. But ultimately, it's going to be an adjustment. It's going to be a shift. It's going to be a change for everybody, but it's not the end of the world. So it's one of the things where it doesn't really scare, worry, fear, because it's just one area of our lives. But there's a lot of other areas as well that this all interconnected with that we're eventually going to experience. And it has to do with some other things that I enjoy talking about as well. So I'm going to touch on that because for those that have not, I'm going to encourage you to check out a video that I did earlier on giftpreneurs. It says, Pat says, the powers that be have had socialism planned from the beginning. This is their mind biblical. The Jews believe God has given them permission. We will be under okay, fair, Pat. Okay, like once again, I don't really bash any ethnicity or any particular nation from a biblical standpoint, just because there are certain things that's stated about that group of people there that I am not in a position to comment on, because that's between the creator and that particular group there. So I'm gonna leave that as is. So the system will keep going as long as the public doesn't lose confidence. We all know the public is sleeping, so who knows how long the system keeps going. Here's the one problem, though. With the current activity by central banks of lowering interest rates, that means that eventually people who... And so one of my new models is, unless you know what you're doing, investing is the new gambling. And so savers will be squeezed out pretty soon. Therefore, there's going to be a recognition that something is wrong and confidence will be lost. But let's keep it going. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. It's low blood pressure.
All right, low blood pressure. Give me 1 second. Let me put you on speakerphone, my friend.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. What's on your mind, my friend?
Wait. I'm sorry. I'm around my kids. Let me go outside. What do you call it? I was watching the channel, and they were saying that you know how they say that the silver and gold will be thrown into the streets.
Mm-hmm.
This guy on this channel was saying that it was the people that are doing that because they're throwing the gold and they're keeping the dollars. What do you think about that?
Now, where exactly is this at?
I heard it on the channel, because the Bible says about the silver and gold.
Mm-hmm.
In the end times they're going to throw it in the street, and he's interpreting that as people are throwing gold and silver into the streets instead of picking it up like me and you were doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, as far as that particular verse, I'm not sure exactly where that's located at, so that's something I have to dive in for myself. But assuming that is something that person was talking about, I would imagine that was something that either happened in the past or whatnot. But as far as a future event, I can imagine if we are like end times where all the things that are described as the seven seals are unleashed and death and all that stuff happens, then at that point, you won't be thinking about gold or silver, I would imagine. So if that's in that same section there, then I can imagine who you would care less about anything in the form of a natural, shirts, gold, clothes, silver. I mean, that's all just financial issues we're talking about. So biblically, when the seals are broken, then I can imagine you won't be caring about paper or gold or anything else in between. You will be more so worried about your eternal fate, in my opinion. But I got to find out what that verse or scripture or whatever that person was referring to is located at.
All right, Mike. I'll put it in the chat.
Please do.
And when it's over, I'll look for it and I'll put it in there for you.
Please do, my friend. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, Mike.
All right. Great thought there. And so that's another thing. Like, as I mentioned, right now, as a way of avoiding complete financial ruin, metals serve a great purpose. But then again, they're just basically they're financial vehicles. That's what it boils down to at the end of the day. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Boots on the Ground.
Boots on the ground. How you doing, my friend? What's on your mind?
Doing pretty good. Hold on for a second. Yeah, just thought I'd just chime in. I hadn't chimed in a while. But I was just wondering, man, if you guys started a little project like your little community can start, that we can actually, like, I guess start getting some things moving financially.
So you start a project. Say it one more time.
Well, I mean, you got a good network base, and people chime into you, they listen to you, they respect you. I mean, I figured, like, if you can, like, if we can just pick a project or something like we want to do that the community like and raise capital.
Yeah, now, so you say project for like land or metals, or what type of project are you referring to?
Anything where the people can actually get involved and actually start networking with each other, helping each other out.
That's interesting. That's something worthy of putting thought to, because primarily for me, other than just trying to provide, resources such as, having some guests on that offer unique perspectives, and of course, they're offering the metals and the gold team. And so other than just providing resources, it's all things that people can choose to get involved with. But a lot of this stuff here is one of the things where people tend to wait to the last minute anyway. They tend to wait till stuff really hit the fan before they start taking action. So there's only a small few out there that I believe that are preemptively, preparing for whatever's coming. So I think you can throw out some opportunities for people, but, most people, in the last minute, because the real world situation is just not time. And a lot of people say, we got time. The dollar's going to be there. So you got a variety of people, but if you had ideas in particular, feel free to shoot me an email. I'd definitely love to, entertain some things, because I'm always open and finding ways to grow the community as well as add value into it. So if you got any ideas, shoot me an email, my friend. I'd love to talk about it further.
Okay, yeah. Is your email posted on your podcast?
It's admin at rethinkingthedollar.com, or just go to rethinkingthedollar.com, look up in the top, and click the button there.
Okay. I'll do that.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the call, and definitely I'm always open for new suggestions, my friend. Thank you.
All right, no problem.
All right, be good. Yeah, man, good stuff. Appreciate the call there. So, give it another second or two, then we'll get ready to dial back, and then I have another article I want to share with you about this trade situation. And so here's another interesting title. This is out of the South China Morning Post. So this is directly from that region. It says, trade war, China to make huge purchases of U.S. goods as details of phase 1 deal revealed. So just more information as the dollar signs, $200 billion worth of American goods. So that's, basically in a long-term thing, that's, $2 in comparison to $100 worth of problems. So I'm not too optimistic that this trade deal is going to really get the ball rolling. But we got a call here. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, this is Robbie Blue.
Give me 1 second. I got another call. I got to cancel that one and put you on speakerphone, so forgive me. All right. I'm sorry. One more time. What's your name?
Yeah, so this is Robbie Blue calling out of Texas. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Bobby Blue. What's on your mind, my friend?
Yeah, basically, man, to just sum things up, just in my opinion.
Okay.
And this is not fear-mongering. I just think it's an inevitable idea of what the future may look like. Mm-hmm. Do you agree that the middle class is basically slowly eroding in this country?
I would definitely agree, yes. And then I would also say that that's a part of the plan. Like the middle class is the bread and butter. It's the cow that's being milked steadily that is eventually going to be squeezed to death. Yes.
Right. If Well, think about it. It's just real simple. Okay, we got rid of unions. They embraced globalism, moved all these factory and manufacturing jobs to all these third world countries, developing countries, I should say. And think about it. Within a 20-year span, 30-year span of all those countries operate, all those countries receiving those manufacturing jobs, you still have people that are willing to flood the border to come to the United States. So that should tell you that didn't necessarily improve their standard of living there, which brings the scary point. You never miss what you've never had. See, if the middle class is eroded here, but people come from, regions of the globe where they've been exploited, it's going to still look as an increase, or it's just going to be a norm. Like, not having health insurance is a norm for some people. Living in dilapidated living conditions is a norm. Being worked from sun up to sundown and not having any money to save, that's a norm. And I think that's kind of the plan in the future, is just to make the United States the consumer nation, the battery for the globe, where like you said, they're going to offer debt. There's not going to be any wage increase. I personally believe we're going to get on a credit system, literally, in the sense that you just earn like credits and points. You know what I mean? Because the money's going to be worthless, and at this point, it's pretty much just everybody's just working paycheck to paycheck to survive. But when you don't have a middle class at all, you really don't have any true opportunities for social mobility. And I've been noticing that you see these little enclaves pop up in Australia and other places around the world where it seems like those that are in the know are already slowly moving and migrating out of the United States and taking their wealth and power with them, so they could pretty much just basically use the country as their proverbial toilet, so to speak. It's like everybody just comes here to use. Nobody's coming here to really contribute and to build. There's no innovation, really. So I just think that that's going to be the end game, and it's not knocking anybody that comes from a third world country, because I think they're being duped too. They're thinking, I'm coming to America to be rescued, not realizing that the fact that they don't understand how our economy works and the problems that we have is pretty much just going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, where the middle class is gone, and maybe with that negative inflation, maybe it may bring the price of some things down. But I mean, what's the point of having a college degree if everybody has it and it's worthless? What's the point of having a few chairs and the music's playing? This is literally musical chairs to me. And we're running out of chairs, and we keep singing the same song every 4 to 8 years. You know what I mean? And it's to the point now where I feel like everyone has to look out for themselves, and that's part of the reason why I'm tuning into your program to try to get some answers of things you can do to kind of lessen the blow, or shield yourself from the shrapnel when it implodes. And I think you're going to see more social discourse. I think you're going to see more people divided as we go into economic issues. And it's a little scary, but like you say, there's biblical prophecy, man. Some of these things have already. What did they say? I'm going to say it without messing up your YouTube algorithm. I think it was something in Revelations where it said the merchants of the world cried when the whore on the water fell. I'm not saying the United States necessarily is the whore, but we do have the Statue of Liberty on the water, and we are allowing ourselves to be prostituted out by the elites. And I think that in the end, it's like you say, this is all going to have to come to a head, and the standard of living for people, if you want to get a good idea of how your standard of living may look at Venezuela, look at some of these other countries where people are coming from, unfortunately, and you got to understand they're used to a completely different normal than we are. That's basically my statement.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you for calling and dropping those nuggets, man. And so as you're talking, and so as I mentioned, everything we cover here happens to be based upon the economy and all the things that will be impacted from that, and it has to do with our monetary system and directly at home with our finances. And so that's just one subject matter. But then you got the living standards, as you mentioned, and then one thing that a lot of people are not really paying attention to as much is the what do you do every day to earn? That's going to be basically the true indicator as to what your financial situation looks like, because
everything's automated.
Yeah.
Think about it. automation is wiping away jobs. Man, I go to Walmart. I remember a year ago, some of the employees would be too lazy to scan my groceries. Now they're begging to scan them because you got, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything is like self-checkout, you know, and you can pretty much order and deliver. Don't get me wrong, innovation is great.
Yeah.
But as long as we do not value human resources and put people to work and be willing to pay a man a living wage, I think we're just going to have a lot of this exploitation that we can't even imagine as Americans. Even if you're an African American or a minority, you're still going to live. You're still living better than somebody who's like, you know what I'm saying, stepping on cocoa leaves for $50, $50 a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they come here and they get a job that pays them less than minimum wage under the table, and they think that's progress.
Yeah.
And it's not helping us as far as competing for jobs. You know?
Right. And so here's another thing. So right on the screen right now, I did a podcast earlier about the coming destruction of jobs. And so there's a gentleman that's a mover and shaker named Kai-Fu Lee. He just wrote a book last year about AI and the impact it's going to have. And so I did a video. It's on the screen right now. I put the link to that video in there. But I would encourage people, you know, it's one of the things where the giftpreneur concept to me is my solution that it will help alleviate as much of the blow as possible if you already know that the very concept of employment and having a job it was just meant to be the beginning, not the end. And so you mentioned living wage. What is a living wage? Like at what point, you know, what's that number that a person would need to live and to be able to build on top of that and to feel like they're productive and producing in this economy? It's all that's changed, but yet our paradigm hasn't changed, and our education system is not built or equipped to teach us skills needed for the future. So there has to be something greater, is what I'm getting at. And I believe a lot of the things we've missed.
I totally agree.
Is a lot of things we've missed that I think that we are inherently carrying, and it has a lot to do with our unique areas of gifting, the true value we each bring that you can't put a number on. Like they can't. If you knew what you were carrying and you were able to deliver it, there's no number that they can pay you that you couldn't get anywhere on this planet if you were delivering it and had a more macro viewpoint as opposed to you serving an employer. So there's all types of stuff I'm getting into, but. I would encourage people, you know, if you haven't, Giftpreneur, the podcast today I think was pretty good. I put it together pretty well. So I'll be interested in finding out your feedback. So I'll put the link in the chat for those that are interested. So, yeah, think beyond a job, man. Think beyond employment is what's going to be needed because the job revolution is already underway, my friend.
All right.
All right, be good. Thanks for the call. All right, man. So I appreciate that call. And with that one there, we're approaching an hour. And an hour is way too long because the chance of somebody watching this from beginning to end again and the replay is not likely. But once again, once you start having fun, you never want to go back. So as always, I want to bring this to your attention. The coming destruction of jobs. It will definitely, it's already underway. And hopefully people are making plans for the day that perhaps you get that pink slip. Hopefully you already have a plan B. Hey there, how you doing?
Hi, Mike. Hey, in regards to that throwing your silver and gold in the streets, there's two parts to this thing. And the second one says, well, here, I'll read the whole thing in context. They will throw their silver into the streets and their gold will be treated as a thing unclean. Their silver and gold will not be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath. So the whole thing is them. Who is them?
Where is that located?
I always question that. Who is them?
Where's that located?
And you have and it says the Lord's wrath. So I mean, if you have a person that's in Christ, you know, but he saved up because he knew what was coming, I wouldn't consider that person a them.
Now, okay, where's that verse located at?
Ezekiel 7:19.
Okay, so that's in the prophetic realm of them. Ezekiel being given a vision ahead of time. Ezekiel 19, what verse?
7:19.
7:19. Let me pull this up.
7:19.
All right, let me copy. Pulling up as we speak. I'm curious to find out myself. 1 second. 7.
Yeah.
Boom. 19. All right, let's see what pops up here.
Refers to people as them or their. I mean, and I think maybe some people might be taking it out of context, possibly. I'm not saying I'm right, but
yeah. All right, I am looking for it now. Let me see, 7:19, chapter 7:19. Okay, so let's pull this up. It says, so I'll start on 18.
I'll let you read it. I'll listen.
I appreciate you, my friend. Thanks. All right, good stuff there. So real quick, I'll just thumb through this and I'll dive further because it's always good to go before and after to get a full shabam of what shows. What it said: all hands shall be feeble and all the knees shall be weak as water. They shall also gird themselves with sackcloth, and horror shall cover them, and shame shall be upon faces, and baldness upon all their heads. They shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of the Lord. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, because it is a stumbling block of their iniquity. Interesting. So once again, I don't know. I would have to read the full chapter here and plus to get an idea what's going on here. But if this is a prophetic piece of scripture here, reference to the last days, one thing that did stand out, the wrath of the Lord. And so definitely, as the caller mentioned, under the new covenant, under the New Testament that we're under now, the rules are a little bit different in regards to, as he said, those that are in Christ are not subject to the same line of punishment as the unbeliever. So I would have to dive further into that, but I'm curious to do that for myself. So won't have time to do it tonight, but I appreciate all those that hung out tonight with me, and definitely looking forward to diving into that, and hopefully, might get a little revelation from that and come back with that tomorrow. So with that being the case, that is all she wrote for this evening. Hope you guys enjoyed the back and forth. If you have, don't be afraid to donate a thumbs up right here beneath this video. It'd be appreciated. And then also, for those, all the opportunities, you got your 1 ounce, 5 ounce, Scary George, you got the Cash Go, whatever you need. There's more than enough resources. So there's no reason why, when it comes to the financial and monetary realm, you're able to acquire things that will preserve your purchasing power throughout time, when you know that we got 50-cent solutions for $100 problems. So anyway, if that been the case, I am going. Peace, be blessed, be safe. See you guys later. Hey there, sorry for this interruption, but I wanted to bring something to your attention. If you've been enjoying this live stream, why don't you partner with me and be a support to the channel via Patreon membership for just a minimum of $5 a month. All you have to do is scroll down beneath this video here, click the Patreon link, then consider donating as little as $5 a month towards the channel. A little bit of crumbs can go a long way, and I appreciate your support. Now, let's get back to this live stream.